What's going on, guys? Daze here, back from Best Buy with a new mic. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it no longer sounds like I'm talking through a tin fucking can. But besides that, I'm excited. I'm going to be trying out a lot of different new stuff with the channel, so if you guys want to see any more topics or new gameplay for the background, please let me know, and I'll see what I can do. Thank you guys all again for the support, and without further ado, let's get into this. A lot has changed with the MrBeast situation since I last talked about it. It's more than just Chris Tyson and the Discord leaks now. MrBeast's entire mask is now slipping off. This all started from a former employee of his, YouTuber Dogpack404 aka Dawson, releasing not one but two videos exposing a ton of new allegations about the behind the scenes of YouTube's poster boy. Apparently also he's gonna make a trilogy too, up there with fucking Lord of the Rings and Deadpool. The first video focused more on things like every gamer video MrBeast made being about as real as a North Korean election, and the working conditions for participants behind the scenes being something that would make the Chinese work camps blush with envy. Part 2 actually just got revealed a couple days ago, and it mostly consisted of an interview with ex-MrBeast employee Jake Weddle. And holy shit, what he detailed sounds genuinely fucking awful. I mean, MrBeast has gone from being, like a stereotypical bad boss, to someone who has literally violated the Geneva Convention. You heard that right, guys. What Jake was a part of, I can only describe as a recreation of the Russian sleep experiment. It's some awful shit. But the real bombshell came at the end of the video, where Jake alleges that he's heard talk and whispers that MrBeast, knowingly, employed a convicted, registered sex offender and pedophile to work behind the scenes as a producer on MrBeast videos, even constantly making jokes about it by referencing the state that he was convicted in.
I heard, people have been let go for sexually assaulting some very young people. The idea that Jimmy didn't know, or that Jimmy was covering stuff up. He didn't want stuff to come out. He's very careful about his image. The tangible proof that he knew but covered it up. How do you prove that, Well, there was a known sex offender, registered sex offender, convicted sex offender on the registry and everything, who worked there. And you can, someone pees in public, you're on the registry, you get it. You can still have a job after you're on that's one thing. You go to prison, you get rehabilitated, that's one thing. If you do your time, that's fine. I think there should be rehabilitation in this country. But that guy, from what I hear, I can't confirm or deny, from what I hear, he's on the registry for doing some not great stuff to some underage people. And they knew that. And he's working at a channel that has underage people on and around and is targeted to underage people. And they covered up the fact that not only did he work there, but he was like the manager when it all started. And that he knew, and because he'll be in videos, he'll be in thumbnails, he'll be around, and whenever he is, he's wearing a mask. Why would you wear a mask? Why would you conceal your face? It's like, what are you concealing? That you are a registered sex offender? And that your face can be looked up on a thing? How much more can you literally cover up a sex offender with a physical mask? Do I have to, is it more on the nose? Or I don't know why they let him go, because there's rumors back and forth, so I don't know why they let him go, but he did leave at one point. Even if that guy didn't do anything, they still knew about it and he was still around. And what if he's one of the people in the Discord servers? What if he's not? I don't know. But when I was there, they called him Delaware. He's like, why do you call him Delaware? I didn't know. Apparently they called him Delaware because he's not allowed to go back to Delaware. That's his nickname? Colloquially? Yeah, it's Delaware. Don't ask him why, The fuck? Did Jimmy know about it? In likelihood that he didn't know is astronomically low.
Now, surely this is just all a rumor, right? Made up to slander the great Mr. Beast. Unfortunately, it's not, and it's worse than you probably think it is. Disclaimer, I hate to say this. This is like McDonald's saying that their fucking coffee is hot, but I have to say it because I know there's going to be a couple stupid people here who are going to try to use all this to take it into their own hands and do some dumb shit. Well, I'm going to say, don't. This is merely meant to inform and educate about the shocking, disgusting things I found about Mr. Beast having a convicted pedophile on his payroll. Again, you're not Batman, you're not the Punisher, you're not a holy crusader or vigilante. If you find anything, let the police have it. Keep your hands, feet, and limbs inside the ride at all times. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. So the allegations of Mr. Beast having a confirmed pedophile on his payroll actually started from the most unexpected place of all. Ava Chris Tyson. Yeah, you heard that right. It kind of reminds me of that video EDP made a while back, where EDP was calling out Chris for being a disgusting person. Maybe it's like a nature thing, you know, they want to take out their competition. But if we look at this tweet here, so here we see in tweets from a couple years ago, Ava Chris Tyson saying, "Never ask Jake how he protected his kid or his family from his brother-in-law. Who you keep in your company describes a lot about you." Which again, coming from Chris of all people, is rich. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. And then we see here them post a picture of a conviction from April 21st, 2010 for rape of the 4th degree sexual intercourse with a victim between 1 to 11 years old in the state of Delaware. Now keep this in your mind, put it in the back of your head. This all stemmed from when people found two videos made in 2017 and 2018 by Mr. Beast, one of them being a prison-themed video and the other being a mental asylum video. Which, good fucking riddance, maybe I'll need to be in the next one because looking through all this information has turned me into a fucking Batman villain. So in the first 2017 video, we see this Delaware individual in a more behind-the-scenes producer way, which is what matches up with what Jake said earlier within his interview. The second video is one from 2018 where Mr. Beast and co, you know, his good old buddies Ethan, Chris, and Chandler are doing a challenge to see who can last, but there's one individual who's not quite like the others, and that's the masked one. Every single other person is referred to by their name, but this one isn't for some reason. I wonder why that is. And of course, this Delaware guy showing up in videos, especially with what After Jake said, sent alarm bells off on the internet. It was like a fucking Bigfoot sighting. You know how in like It, Pennywise is in the bank of pictures? That's how the internet felt seeing this Delaware person in these videos and being referenced. And holy shit, they apparently found him. This is Delaware's sex offenders registry page, not just from Delaware, but also North Carolina itself. I'm going to block a lot of this information out, but there are some relevant points I want to draw attention to. First of all is the fact that even though the Delaware picture isn't as accurate, the North Carolina one looks exactly like him. That is the same exact dude. Some other things that he's a tier 2 moderate risk, and we're going to get into a little bit why later. Another is his home being in Greenville, North Carolina, which is the same place that Mr. Beast comes from as well. If you look at their employment, nothing is listed and they're unemployed, which, I'm gonna get into a little bit later. But then at the very bottom, on the sex offender registries from North Carolina and Delaware, you will see April 21st, 2010 as the conviction date, with description of rape, 4th degree sexual intercourse. The Delaware code for this charge, we can actually see that the ways a person could get this is by the person in charge either having sex with someone before they reach 16 or sexual penetration that occurs without the victim's consent. Again, which is some seriously fucked up stuff, and anyone with these charges should not be let anywhere near children. Yet we have this person who's being accused of this, who matches up perfectly with a person in the sex offenders registry that has the same address in the area as Mr. Beast, and the same charges that Chris Tyson said that one of Jake's family members had. I know you're probably asking, but Daze, there's no way that Mr. Beast could have known about this, right? there's no way that he participated in this openly or knew about this whole Delaware nickname, right?
And the other 2 get $5,000 each. Whoever steps out, if Delaware steps out, you 2 get $5,000. Ethan steps out, you 2 get $5,000. It's still $5,000 each. Delaware! Yes. I need everyone's phones. I want them all to FaceTime their family.
Oh. Yeah, he did. Oh. And trust me, it gets even worse. Because as of yesterday, Jake the Viking actually released a statement confirming that Delaware is his brother-in-law and a convicted pedophile and sex offender. So one thing I want to get into before this response is actually in 2018, Jake himself confirms that Delaware is his own brother-in-law. Just to be a bit of overkill, but let's get into this. Here's the truth. Yes, Delaware is my brother-in-law. Yes, he is a RSO. When he was 21, a 16-year-old girl accused him and others of SA when she was 11. Delaware took a plea deal. That's why there was no jail time, but he still had to register. Let's chunk this out, paragraph by paragraph. So already, Jake has some very slimy wording that just doesn't come off right to me. The way he's saying things that a 16-year-old accused him of SA when she was 11, this whole thing that, she just made it up to, accuse him and a bunch of other men. Like, this really weird implication that he's innocent when the court convicted him and he's still on the registry as a moderate risk. It's just so fucking gross to me, but let's keep powering through this. Nickname isn't Delaware because he can't go back to Delaware. He's from Delaware. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He's been back several times. Again, this just feels like cope, especially when this person molested an 11-year-old within that state and people are going up to him joking and saying, I hope you don't go back there. Really, really shitty cop-out. He was hired before I was and was actually the reason I got hired at Mr. Beast. Before being hired, Delaware sat down with Jimmy and Sue, Jimmy's mom, and explained everything to them. So yes, Jimmy knew, and right here, it's there. Just bold out there that Jimmy himself, Mr. Beast, knew that he was hiring a convicted pedophile and sex offender. But again, this incident happened in 2010. Delaware was hired in 2018. Delaware was also let go from the company before I was. Didn't you say that it was a mutual split, Jake? Didn't you say that in multiple videos? See, that's the problem with Jake. He already is a notorious fucking liar who wants to paint himself in the best light possible, so it's not that far of a stretch to say that he'd do the same for his brother-in-law as well. Before the whole Delaware leaks, Jake the Viking, was pumping his fist up in the air saying, "Yeah, go dog pack, down with Jimmy, down with Jimmy." But when it came out that Mr. Beast hired your child molester brother-in-law, knowing that full well, and you're getting the same heat that you gave him, now you're the victim, that your back is pressed against the wall. And we're going to see that with the rest of his response. He completely goes full Benedict Arnold on what he said before and tries to paint the convicted child rapist in a positive light. Delaware was supposed to be a behind-the-scenes manager, but in a couple videos, he was asked to partake because we needed people. He was reluctant, especially in the straitjacket video, because of his charges, and that's why he wore the mask. I'll take another bullshit statement for 500 Alex because Delaware literally showed his entire face in the 2017 video. It's very clear he wasn't just a behind-the-scenes manager. He's had roles in big videos before, and that's gonna be a fucking problem when your videos are meant primarily for children, and you have a convicted child rapist working with them when Mr. Beast is known for also working with children too. Here's what I think, guys. Just put on your tinfoil hats for a second. I think as Mr. Beast got bigger and his brand got larger, he had this guy on his team that he wasn't going to remove, for nepotism, but also he knew that if their face ever got out there, it would cause his fucking image to shatter. That's why the mask came on later when he got bigger and bigger and bigger. Delaware's charges are set to be dropped this fall. Delaware has been nothing but a good person, an amazing husband to my sister, and the best father to my 2 nieces I could have ever asked for. They want no part in this and want to just live their lives away from the limelight. Oh, Fuck off. I see what you're trying to do here. You're trying to say, the same thing that all YouTubers do when they get scrutinized. How, I'm getting death threats, guys. People are threatening, harassing me. No one cares about your sister or, your two nieces. They don't, Jake. They care about holding your pedophile brother-in-law, who is a convicted sex offender, accountable. Fuck off with this whole, he's a good husband, he's a good father. What about that 11-year-old girl? No, he wasn't. This is so fucking disgusting. And you pair this with what he said about the 11-year-old girl where, she came out later and, basically was implying that she made it up to attack him. Because he's such a good guy and he's so innocent. Also, I don't think the charges are going to be dropped because, despite it saying in the Delaware Sex Offender Registry, that he's unemployed, he very clearly worked for Mr. Beast, and I am sure the state of Delaware is going to love it, knowing that a convicted sex offender worked very close with one of the largest YouTube channels directed at children. But let me guess, they made it all up and they rigged it. They rigged it. My brother is such a good guy. He's such a good guy, guys. He's such a good guy. He's a nice guy. You gotta believe me. I understand why anyone would be upset and frustrated over these allegations, and I do not blame them. They are not fucking allegations. He got convicted by the state of Delaware. My God, this is the level of copium we're huffing now. He's innocent. He took a plea deal. He's innocent. I'm not gonna say anything or prove anything that supports this, but the state of Delaware is corrupt. What does fucking Delaware have against your brother? What vendetta? What could they possibly frame him for? Let me guess. Next, you're gonna say it was the Clintons. Yeah, right. The Clintons got that 11-year-old girl brainwashed to make up that thing about you. Yeah. Totally. That makes sense. Honestly, it would be easier to believe in flat Earth than this bullshit. Hurting kids anyway is completely unacceptable, unless they're my brother-in-law, because he is literally the second coming of Gandhi himself. I saw him, transform, and he's actually Buddha, guys. He's actually so good, and he's gonna spread peace and love to everyone. But in the case of Delaware, I firmly believe he did nothing wrong and look forward to the day these charges are dropped. Thank you. Well, thank you, Jake, for being such a disingenuous, lying piece of shit that constantly flip-flops and implicates yourself. I don't hope that Delaware gets the charges dropped. In fact, I am glad that this is being spread so everyone can know that not only you, but your shitty boss, Mr. Beast, employed a literal pedophile around children. I don't care what good deeds he did, he still molested an 11-year-old. And the thing that proves more about that is it's so hard to pursue SA allegations, especially years after. So the fact that Delaware was able to try and convict him in this case says and incriminates him a lot more in my mind. It wasn't just him who did something wrong, it was you and Jimmy for even allowing him to work with kids, which I cannot fathom, I cannot fucking conceive of, and then openly lie. Because I'm a little bit old-fashioned, I'm a little bit traditional. I believe, as men, we're supposed to fight for people who can't fight for themselves. We're supposed to speak for people who can't speak for themselves. Because
there's monsters out there.
Way bigger and way stronger, especially at 16 against an 11-year-old girl. What the fuck do you think an 11-year-old girl can do in that situation? Nothing. But what do? Instead, you victim blame and imply that the 11-year-old girl made it up years down the line to just target your brother. You are the worst kind of man, Jake. You are the man who will cover anything up as long as it's anyone close to him doing it. You and Jimmy are a couple made in hell and perfectly fitting for each other, and I believe that you deserve the full blast of scrutiny that he's getting right now, you disgusting, pathetic whelp of a fuck. One thing I do find interesting about this entire statement is that Jake the Viking never brought up what Chris did about this being in Jake's family. Both Chris and Jake are such giant fucking liars, I don't know who to believe in this situation. But seeing how much Jake has already lied and tried to warp this situation to make Delaware look better, inclines me to believe that there's some stuff he's leaving out about that 11-year-old Delaware molested being in his family, which I think is fucking alarming and fucking disgusting. The fact that this guy was even able to touch a single thing that went into Mr. Beast's videos is deplorable. Again, this in my mind is what separates Mr. Beast apart from all these other people, all the people in the past who have promoted CSGO lotto gambling and Twitch gambling and all this shit. The fact that Mr. Beast literally brought a convicted child molester into his operation because they were the brother-in-law of his best friend. Good fucking riddance. I don't understand this thing. If Delaware was innocent, this is also an argument I've heard 1,000 times on Steve Wilkos, where someone who's done something horrible says, oh, I had to accept a plea deal, I had no other choice. If I was accused of even a fraction of this, I would go down kicking and screaming about my innocence. Why the fuck, if you were an innocent man getting accused 6 years later, would you accept a plea deal and admit to being guilty? It literally makes no fucking sense because it doesn't. It's horseshit and needs to be called out for what it is. And this whole thing about, oh, hurting kids is wrong, it's unacceptable. Except if it's my brother, because he's completely innocent. It was completely made up. The state of Delaware made up those charges against him. 100%. I'm honestly surprised that they didn't go he's a, born-again Christian and he's given his heart to the Lord and, he serves giving back to the orphans and the kittens at the animal shelter. Honestly kind of surprising, to be honest. Jake, if you or Mr. Beast gave a fuck about protecting kids in your audience, you would not have hired this man. But no, you wanted to have your little shares circle, your little jerk-off, even though Delaware has never listed working for Mr. Beast on his sex offender registry. He's such a good man. He's such an upstanding guy, but he fucking lied. There's no mention of it on there, and it's kind of a big fucking deal when Mr. Beast's demographic is kids. This especially disgusted me to my core because I was put in a very similar situation to this. My first year of college, I was actually best friends with someone. I'll call him Dan. Me and Dan were great friends. He dormed, I commuted, and, I would go over and spend the night all the time, and, we would shoot the shit and drink together. Like, we were as close to brothers as you could possibly get. However, I heard these things later that he was sneaking out at night to go, fool around with girls. And I thought, oh, that sly dog, he's just getting some tail. Ha, ha, ha. But then it later came out that he was drugging and, forcing these girls to do various different things. And it fucking wrenched me to my gut. It just, I literally felt as if someone ripped out my intestines and stuffed a completely different person's in mine. And I did the only thing you could do. I blocked them, and I cut them off completely. And the fact that Jake does not have an ounce of that remorse, or an ounce of that guilt, when what happened with him in Delaware was arguably just as bad, if not worse, especially considering it might have been one of his family members that Delaware molested, is so disgusting and revolting to me. I just don't even know what to say. You don't get to fucking hide and take the easy way out, Jake. This was a dog shit, garbage response, and you are just as bad as Jimmy in this front. Fuck you. Speaking of Jimmy, though, let's get a little bit into this, because this whole entire thing with Delaware occurred 2017 and 2018. Now, if you're caught up on the lore, you'll remember that the entire Discord also happened at that time. And this is where it starts to become way, way more alarming for Mr. Beast, and why I think he is done. I wouldn't say it before, but I will now. Jimmy is a legitimate fucking sociopath. He reminds me almost of the fucking elusive man from Mass Effect. The fact that he's behind all this stuff and knew all about it and just chose to conveniently ignore it. But I get it, Jimmy. It's probably easy to sleep at night knowing you have a pedophile on your crew when your entire bed is plated with fucking gold and your mattress is stuffed with $100 bills. This, for me, is the true beginning of the end for Mr. Beast, because there's nothing he can do to fight this. There's no amount of lawyers or cease and desists he can use to shut this down, because this is as objective as it gets. There's no room for interpretation or saying that the people who did this, did this maliciously, because it came right from him and Jake. Right from him and Jake. And there's no putting it back in Pandora's box. It's out there, and we finally see him for what he is. An enabler, apologist, and friend to literal groomers and pedophiles, and he doesn't give a fuck about it. because he only cares about one thing: his image and his money. And that's something Jacksepticeye called out a year ago.
Now, Jack, a completely unrelated question. Do you like Mr. Beast?
No.
Jack, do you think Mr. Beast ruined YouTube?
Yes.
Now, in all honesty, Jack, why?
Because it became more about views, money, and popularity than it did about having fun.
You just don't think you have fun playing Squid Games? You don't think you have fun riding on yachts?
If he
building
had-
wells in Africa? I don't know.
If he had fun doing those videos, they'd be longer. We'd see the fun.
Ooh.
Thought you were going to get me with that one, didn't you?
Who's the YouTuber you hate the most?
I don't know. There's a lot of groomers and pedophiles on our platform.
That clip aged like spoiled milk. Holy fuck. Jack couldn't have been more right. If Mr. Beast truly cared about the content he was putting out, he wouldn't allow someone like Chris to send, dick pics to minors. He wouldn't allow someone like Delaware to be there on set, knowing his productions are primarily aimed at kids and even sometimes involve them. He doesn't give a fuck, because the only thing he cares about is money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
And that to me is fucking disgusting. A man who sells out all their morals in the pursuit of wealth and doesn't care about anyone but themselves. I feel very comfortable saying now that Jimmy is a pedophile defender, and there's no defending this. This is the end of the road, and I hope this entire brand he's built falls apart because it's all fucking fake. I don't even know what else to say because it's literally as concrete and clear-cut as it can possibly get. All I know is that, when the Mr. Beast empire finally topples, I'm gonna be smoking that Beast pack and watching it burn from a distance. The only thing I can finally hope for is that Delaware, Jake, and Mr. Beast himself never work with kids again, because it's very clear that all three of them, especially Mr. Beast and his productions, do not give a fuck about the safety of kids and are willing to actively opening these kids up to all kinds of horrible mistreatment if it means that a little bit of extra cash can flow. Willing to let these kids be exposed to things that no child should be exposed to by any adult if it means that they get to keep the friend circle a little bit longer. And all we can do for now is to wait for part 3 of Dogpack's trilogy to drop. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you saw, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And see ya. Bye-bye.